Thank you, Socialist Alliance, Greens Left, for having me. I'd like to begin by acknowledging that we meet on the unceded sovereign land of the Wurundjeri people, and I pay my respects to their elders past, present, and emerging. I want to say something that acknowledgements rarely say. The cultural freedoms I enjoy here, to speak, to organize, and to be visibly different, were not delivered by white settlement. They were fought for and are still being fought for by First Nations people. We owe them more than a sentence at the start of this evening. We owe them solidarity. And I want that to be the foundation of everything I say tonight, not a prelude to my argument, but it's very grounding. My name is Deepak Joshi. I co-founded the Humanism Project and Hindus for Human Rights, and I edit NRI Affairs, which is a current affairs platform for the Indian Australian diaspora. I came here from India by way of West Asia and have lived across continents. I speak Hindi and Urdu natively, and some Bengali, some Punjabi, and a little bit of Arabic. I have sat at iftar tables and Seder tables, and I have served langars in Sikh gurdwaras. I have recited English poetry, Urdu ghazals, Hindi dohas, and Sanskrit shlokas. I have walked into mosques, temples, and churches to listen and to meditate. I'm not confused by any of this. I'm enriched by it. And I refuse to live in a world that would ask me to be less. The Humanism Project exists because we believe justice cannot be conditional. Hindus for Human Rights exists because Hindu identity, one of the oldest and most internally diverse traditions on earth, does not belong to nationalists and monoculturalists. Both organizations exist because politics of exclusion has never been limited to one faith, one flag, or one target. Pauline Hanson stood at the National Press Club 10 days ago and declared that Australia must be, in her word, monocultural. And there is a particular audacity in standing on this continent and saying that. For tens of thousands of years, this land held not one culture, but hundreds, each with its own language, law, governance, and understanding of country. The first peoples maintained more than 250 distinct languages, a density of diversity greater than almost anywhere else on earth. They built aquaculture systems thousands of years before Egyptian pyramids. They mapped the stars and encoded knowledge in ceremony, in story, in songlines that crossed the continent. This was not the absence of civilization. This was civilization, deep and plural and alive. And then someone arrived and declared it a monoculture. Terra nullius, nobody's land, one people, one law, one language. And we know what it looked like. We know what it cost. And we know it is not finished. To call this land monocultural is not merely wrong, it is a continuation of the same violence that tried to make it so. I'm not citing this as an analogy or as a rhetorical device. I'm saying that Aboriginal sovereignty is the prior and primary claim to which all of us, including the migrants, are accountable. We do not need to look to Europe or America for a framework for plural, just democracy. The framework is here, under our feet, older than any of our traditions. We need only the honesty to be led by it. Dr. Bhimrao Ambedkar, the anti-caste icon and architect of independent India's inclusive constitution, wrote that political democracy cannot last unless there lies at the base of it social democracy. The same logic that sustained caste hierarchy in India, that some are born into a lower order, that purity requires separation, drove the violence of colonization here. Ambedkar and the Aboriginal freedom movement were fighting the same enemy, the idea that some human beings are, by birth, less. These are not separate conversations. These are the same conversation in different languages. I want to ask a question. Does Halal certification fund terrorism? No, it doesn't. No credible evidence exists. Parliamentary inquiries, security agencies, economists, all have examined the claim. The answer is clear. But here's the thing. It doesn't matter. Not because the truth is unimportant. Of course, truth matters. But in the current political environment, the truth has lost its power to change minds that were never looking for truth in the first place. In his essay On Bullshit, philosopher Harry Frankfurt drew a distinction that is the key to understanding our moment. A liar knows the truth and tries to deceive, tries to conceal it. A bullshitter is entirely indifferent to whether a statement is true or false. What matters to the bullshitter is, does it work? Does it land? Does it stick? Frankfurt argued that the bullshitter is more dangerous than a liar, because the liar at least acknowledges that truth matters. The bullshitter doesn't care. And when you don't care about the truth, you cannot be fact-checked into silence. That is why Hanson can claim 130,000 Australians sleep rough every night. 130,000. The actual figure is closer to 7,600. And it doesn't hurt her. That is why Trump could say Haitian immigrants were eating pets in Springfield. And it became a defining moment of the 2024 presidential campaign. The emotional charge of a claim travels infinitely faster than any correction or any fact check. Walter Lippmann saw this coming more than 100 years ago. He said, people carried simplified pictures in their heads of the world. The world is far too complex for us to understand. So we form a very simplified picture in the head. And we protect those pictures against facts that challenge them. In 2026, where algorithms only feed our confirmation biases, those pictures become fortresses. Whatever you think, that the moon landing was staged, that the earth is flat, that Australia must remain a monocultural Christian nation, you will find a community online that believes it, confirms it, and amplifies it. People do not vote for Hanson in spite of the bigotry. They vote for her because of it. She gives a name and a face to the resentment people have been carrying quietly and says, this is not shameful. This is righteous. We are being swamped by Asians. Foreigners are bad. Islam is cancer. Halal certification funds terrorism. The truth is irrelevant. Facts don't matter. The grievances Hanson is tapping into are real, as Giselle said. Housing is unaffordable. Wages have stagnated. The political establishment has failed the working class for decades. But the solution on offer is a fraud. Hanson stood at the press club and told workers she would make it easier to sack them. She called workers lazy. She opposed wage theft, criminalization, and all this while traveling on a private jet belonging to Gina Reinhardt, whose network has donated millions to one nation. This is a party of billionaires wearing high visibility vests. Globally, the pattern is documented. In the 2024 US elections, 80% of billionaire political spending went to the Republicans. Elon Musk donated nearly $300 million to elect Donald Trump. As Arundhati Roy observed of India, the corporate world and the Hindu right have fused into a single organism with interchangeable parts. The same fusion is visible here. The reason is not hard to understand. As artificial intelligence hollows out white-collar work at scale, the political demand for universal basic income and wealth redistribution becomes irresistible. Unless you can direct the anger onto refugees, onto Muslims, and to the woke academic. Senator David Pocock has asked the honest question Hanson never asked. Why doesn't one of the wealthiest countries on earth train enough of its own doctors and nurses instead of taking skilled professionals from countries that desperately need them? This is a conversation about planning and priorities. But Hanson doesn't want a plan. She wants a target. Now, as someone from a diaspora community that prides itself on being a model migrant, I want to say plainly, that framing is a trap. It positions us as acceptable by contrast. It demands that we earn belonging by being useful, undemanding, and silent about other people's struggles. 125 years after the White Australia policy, exclusionary politics is finding its footing again. And our response cannot be each community retreating into the shadows, hoping the rising tide does not hit their doorstep. And I also have to be honest about my own community. Anti-Indian racism is real and growing. But some of its reaction to something we must reckon with ourselves. The Indian government of Prime Minister Modi has spent a decade cultivating not pride, but arrogance. The delusion that India is now a Vishwa Guru, a superpower commanding special global reverence. In some quarters, it has produced entitlement that host societies resent. Add to that the caste conflict surfacing in universities and workplaces, the viral videos of Indian tourists ignoring local regulations, and the uncomfortable reality of anti-Muslim prejudice becoming a defining feature of some diaspora communities. And here is the uncomfortable connection to tonight's meeting. Some of the most vocal supporters of One Nation, of Trump, of Farage, are drawn from exactly these sections of the Indian diaspora. People who have absorbed the politics of exclusion in India and found a comfortable home in the politics of exclusion here. People who want to shut the door behind them. We must change that with our own communities, without apology. Our interests lie in solidarity with the refugees, asylum seekers, those on temporary visas, and First Nations peoples. And alongside the majority of Anglo-Australians who genuinely reject hate and division. And many of them are in this room. Together, we should be fighting for a future that serves all people, not billionaires' and vested interests. That is a coalition worth building. And lastly, the ugliness that dominates politics today mirrors something in our society. It is not the failure of democracy. It is democracy working exactly as intended. And as we say in Indian English, we are like this only. Andrew Breitbart, the ultra-conservative godfather of modern culture war, and not someone I quote approvingly, was right about one thing. Politics is downstream from culture. The right understood this. The right-wing politics understood this and spent decades building for it. We need to do the same. Because if we do not build it, somebody else will. And we have seen what they built. Thank you.